to make sure that the recording is on. Yeah, fantastic. And let me just make her co-host. Okay, so we're ready to go. Fantastic. Okay, so recording's on. Brilliant. Okay, so welcome everyone to today. So today we're really going to be diving into what I think is a crucial topic for leaders in today's complex business world. And we often kind of talk about business complexity, but I really do believe that business is, more complex today than in previous years. So we're going to be talking about overcoming ethical dilemmas. So how do you lead with conviction, tackling tough decisions, but doing that with your integrity intact? And I think is a really important thing. So every leader, no matter how experienced they are, I think we're going to face situations where your values are challenged. So the key is knowing how to navigate those difficult decisions without compromising your integrity. So whether it's a decision about cutting costs that we started to talk about, whether it's facing a public relations issue, or even kind of managing a conflict of interest, how you handle these situations directly impacts your leadership, your company, and your reputation. So if you agree with me, give me a thumbs up that how you do these things has an impact on your leadership, your company, and your reputation. Okay, fantastic. So just so that we know that we're in the right place, thank you. Our mission is to create a welcoming space where leaders are empowered to align their values, their faith, and their ethics with their leadership. And through this alignment, we help leaders to increase their impact authentically, and achieve business success with integrity in every sphere of influence, so whatever the business kind of context you operate in. So that's what we're about. So welcome to this space. Okay, in today's session, we're going to explore how, some practical strategies for resolving ethical dilemmas. We're going to talk about how to stay true to your core values. We're going to think about why ethical leadership is so important for long-term success. We're going to touch on some real-world examples of companies and leaders who made tough but ethical decisions. And then I'm going to share a little bit about our free or complimentary leadership impact and influence audit. So we have often that, and also the brand new leadership lab membership group. But you have to wait till the end, so you have to be with me in order to hear all this exciting news. So my name's Arenka Fontaine, and I'm dedicated to helping faith-driven leaders align their talents, their values, and their spiritual gifts to create phenomenal business success. So first, while we're now, let's ask you another question as we get started. So in your opinion, what is an ethical dilemma? Okay, so in your opinion, what's an ethical dilemma? So if you can put your thoughts in the comment box. So what does the term ethical dilemma mean to you? What does that mean to you? So let's see where your thoughts are. So we've already had some ideas about the types of difficult decisions, but what does this whole term ethical dilemma mean to you? Any thoughts? Okay, so it's something that challenges your thought patterns and sometimes your values. So thought patterns and values at the same time. Okay, when your gut doesn't agree with your intellectual brain. I love that one. So when your gut doesn't agree with your intellectual brain. So there's definitely some conflict going on. And being challenged to make a call on letting someone go when you're not in agreement with a decision. So again, there's definitely some kind of impasse going on between what you're faced with and what you're feeling inside. I love those. This is great. We're off to a great start. Fantastic. Okay, so an ethical dilemma occurs when a leader is faced with a decision where right and wrong are not clear. Okay, right and wrong are not clear. So you may have multiple options, each with both positive and negative consequences. So regardless, there will be some consequences either way. Okay. So sometimes doing the right thing could lead to short-term losses, while taking the wrong path might seem like an easy way to solve the problem, but then it may not be in the end. Okay. But here's the thing. How you resolve these dilemmas shapes your leadership and your organization's future. And we've got some ideas about that. So yeah, definitely it's about leading in the grayscale world. It's about how do you navigate through those things. Fantastic. So if I give some examples then, an ethical dilemma might involve, say, balancing profit with people. So like when your cost-cutting measures conflict with employee welfare and some of the things we're talking about, redundancy situations, how do we balance profit with people? Another example could be transparency versus secrecy. So when not disclosing certain information would protect the organization, but it would actually hurt stakeholders or our customers in the long run. So transparency versus secrecy. And then you could have conflict in priorities as another dilemma. Okay, so when one business goal may be achieved, but at the expense of another important goal, such as social responsibility or long-term sustainability. So they're kind of real kind of edgy kind of decisions. So these challenges can actually make or break a leader. And definitely they play a huge part when it comes to reputation in the long run. So how you are in those dilemmas, how you act, the decisions you make a big impact on how people view you and the reputation that you have. So let's dive into some real life examples of this in action. Now, some of the examples you may have heard me mention before, but I just think that some of the case studies are really worth kind of looking at again, but maybe looking at things from a different angle. So here we go. So a couple of real life kind of ethical dilemmas in business. So the first one is the whistleblower dilemma. So this is Jeffrey Wiggin and the tobacco industry. Now, Jeffrey Wiggin was the former tobacco executive who exposed the industry's knowledge of the harmful effects of smoking. So in a scenario that mirrors, I think, many of our leaders, many leaders' dilemmas. Jeffrey had to choose between his loyalty to his employer, to his company, and speaking out against practices that were harmful both to the public, but also they were deceptive practices as well. So he had to make that choice. Now, his decision to go public had severe personal and professional consequences. But at the same time, it also led to sweeping changes in public health policy, and it actually earned him respect and solidified his ethical standpoint. But it was a bit of a journey to get there. So what's the leadership lesson? Now, I think that this example teaches us that sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks. But the long-term impact of acting with integrity is more valuable than short-term gain. So that's one way of looking at it. You see, ethical leadership, it does build trust and it does inspire respect. And these are two qualities that are crucial for long-term success for any organization. So trust and respect. And secondly, there's the Johnson & Johnson example of the Tylenol crisis in 1982, when it was revealed that someone had tampered with the product. Now, the company, as you may have heard, immediately recalled, made the decision to pull 31 million bottles of Tylenol from the shelves, an action that cost them over $100 million in lost revenue. But despite the financial impact, they actually prioritise customer safety and public trust over short-term profits. So what's the leadership lesson here then? So this actually demonstrates the importance of immediate action in maintaining ethical standards. It's about taking the right action, but doing that quickly in those situations. So ethical leadership requires not only making the right choices, making the right decisions, but also acting swiftly when it's necessary to do so. So Johnson and Johnson's commitment to transparency and customer safety and accountability helped them to actually regain their reputation, and they actually emerged even stronger after the crisis. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. This could be a case of important over urgent. So urgent is keeping the paychecks coming in. Important is where the right thing is done. Yeah, so often applying ethics on moral personal morals. But yeah, and I guess the thing is those urgent things and those how do we make time for the urgent things and also give the important things priorities in how we go about our business. So yeah, but that's definitely, we do have to weigh urgent versus important. Yeah, I do like that. That's great. I love that. Okay. So what I want to do now, because I want you to get ready to think about some other things, is I want to share a six-step practical approach that you can take when facing ethical dilemmas in your leadership role. So it's like a framework for making ethical decisions, if you like. So you've probably seen these, or you probably know about these, or you probably follow these kind of steps already, but I just want to put them out there just for completeness and just work through them. Absolutely, yeah. So, and I think that's the thing. I often say to people I work with when I'm coaching people, it's like, when you're a leader, it's like people almost wait for you to either make a mistake or wait for you to act in a certain circumstance. And then they're like, oh, right, that's what they're like. Do you know what I mean? So a crisis is definitely one of those situations where people will kind of look to and point to for days, months, years to come. So definitely you are judged on how you respond to crisis, definitely. Okay, so the first then point is to define the dilemma clearly. So this is the first step. It's about really understanding what the ethical dilemma is. So what exactly are the competing interests at play? Is it a financial decision? Is it a people decision? Is it something else? So in the first instance, you really do need to understand, exactly what it is you're deciding on. Yeah, we're definitely. So whether it's action or inaction, you're right. As a leader, you're definitely always on show, always on show. Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing. Again, and that's probably one of the things where they say it's kind of it's lonely being a leader. So when you have to make the decision, people will kind of stand back and let you make that decision. But if you get that wrong, they're quickly ready to give a view on the decision you made, and that's all part of leadership. So the more we can do things in the right way, the better it is, I think. Okay, cool. So number two, the thing that helps then is to gather all the facts. Okay, so before jumping into making a decision, gather as much information as possible. Now I know sometimes that can take time, and you might be thinking, I just don't have time to do that. But it's really important to really assemble what are the facts, what is the context behind the dilemma, to really understand that. So this may include seeking feedback from trusted advisors. It might be actually talking to your team members, or even going out to external sources to really help you to gather the facts so you can make those decisions. Okay, number three is to consider the consequences of each option. Again, that was like, oh my goodness, it takes a bit of time, let me just go with my gut feel. But actually think through the consequences of each possible decision. So what are the short and long-term impacts on your employees for either course of action? On the customers, on your stakeholders, or even on the reputation of yourself or the organization. So think about each option and ask those questions. Because remember, it's important to consider both the financial and the ethical consequences. Okay. Yeah, balancing the time available to gather information versus the time that you need to make timely action. So yeah, you definitely have to get those things down. And the unintended, yeah, definitely. And look at what would happen if you don't do something. So there's that opportunity cost as well, definitely. Okay, so number four It's align the decision with your core value. So that's a point to kind of stop and ask yourself which option best aligns with your core values as a leader. Now, I think a good litmus test could be to ask yourself, what would your conscience say if you were to make that decision in front of your family or in your community? Or dare I say, if you were to make that decision in front of Jesus? Okay, what would your conscience say then? Okay, so that's one thing. And then number five is make the decision. So after considering all the factors, it's time to make the decision. Now, while it may not be easy to make a decision, it's so important for leaders to take responsibility for their choices. Because, like has been said before, people are going to come back to you and they're going to have an opinion on what you've done. So, know why you're making your decision and be willing to stand and take responsibility for the decision you've made. And remember, by acting in alignment with your own values, not only will you fulfill your kind of inner conviction, but you'll also build long-term trust with the people around you and with those people who actually look up to you. When they can see that you're a person of your morals, you stand by them and you take responsibility, it helps them to trust you. And then finally, number 6, which is to monitor and evaluate the option. In all honesty, how many times or how often do we really take that last step to monitor the decisions that we've made? So the question then is, did the decision have the desired effect? Did it strengthen or weaken the organization's ethical culture? So where possible, even though we're in a timely situation, be prepared to adjust the course of action if necessary. Okay, so there are those six steps or a 6 steps framework for resolving ethical dilemmas. Minimize. Okay, I like that. I like that. So when you take the steps 1 to 5, it actually minimizes decision makers' remorse. That's right, because you've thought it through. There's a reason for why you've done something, and you can stand honestly, authentically on the decision you've made. I do like that one. I'll add that into my slide next time. Thank you. Cool. Okay, so now let's get you thinking a bit more. So let's put what we've discussed into practice, okay? So I'm going to present you, yes. So number 6, when you do evaluate, it does bring better decisions next time round from a learning game. I do like that. We're going to come back to that one. Okay, so let's now put what we've discussed into practice. I'm going to present you with a scenario that I'd like you to reflect on and reflect on the ethical dilemma and apply the framework that we've just kind of gone through. So I think what's happening now is if you see your name, then you've got a document that you can click onto. You've got a document that you can click onto that you can use for this activity. So Nick, if you click on that line, I think everybody's name will come up with a document that you can click on. Okay, so this is the scenario while we're waiting for those spreadsheets to come up. So imagine, there's Manjula. So imagine that you're the CEO of a tech company and you're presented with an opportunity to partner with a supplier who's offering a much lower price than your current supplier. So a key supplier has informed you that they can no longer meet the deadlines due to labour shortages, jeopardising your production schedule. But another supplier offers to take over at a similar cost. However, you know that this supplier has a questionable track record when it comes to labour practices. So what do you do? What do you do? So take a moment to reflect on the scenario, and everybody's got the sheets are coming up. So click on your sheet, it'll take you to a Google Doc that you can then use to do the activity. Okay, so take a minute to reflect on the scenario and use the framework to consider your options. Think about your core values and what would actually guide your decisions in this scenario. So how would you balance cost saving versus ethics? Okay, and then put your comments put them in the comment box as well, so that we can get a sense of the thought process that you're going through as you work through the dilemma. So what approach would you take? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, for those of you, I'm just going to go back one slide and just put the 6 steps up so that you can see them. And then you can just populate the chat with your thoughts as we go through that with your thoughts. So what would you do? What would you do in this scenario? What would you do? Yeah. So what would you do in this scenario? So would you stick with your current supplier and risk delays? Or would you switch to the new supplier and risk reputational damage? Okay, what would you do? So I was thinking about that. So yeah. So that's what I'm asking you. So think about what would you do, and then just drop some ideas in the chat of the kind of things that you would do. So where your thoughts are, how would you would make your decision? I mean, I don't know, would going back out to get additional information be something you might want to do? Do you know what I mean? So would you look at, point 2 in more detail and gather more facts? Who would you go to get those facts? What criteria could you use to make those decisions? I don't know. What are some of your thoughts? And I'll just wait for you to come back and give me some ideas. Okay. Okay, supply continuity over ethics of working conditions. Okay, so when you happen to think about the decision, it's like, you know what, the business has to go on. So, that's something that I might choose to do. Okay, I do like that one. So, do I actually know what the labour practices are, or are they just more rumours? That could be smoke and daggers in the situation to kind of make you go off track. Okay, is there a way that you can inquire of the practices of alternative suppliers and gain more information? So it's quickly, how do I do these things? How can I ask questions of them that actually indicates my position? I think that's a good one in discomfort. How do I talk to that new supplier that says, okay, you can meet my deadlines, the price is right, but I have concerns here. What assurances can you give me that you're going to treat the people well in fulfilling this contract? To even get an agreement about how they're going to work with you, regardless of what they do with other ones, could be a starting point. Manage the supply chain. Customers, so rather than go with a different supplier, go back to my customers and kind of say, you know what, there is a supply issue. How do we manage that? Do you have to stock stuff in order to think about those eventualities? Okay, review time pressure with customers to understand if any room for stretch and delivery. So again, going back to our current customer base and kind of going, this is what we've come up, is a way that we can work together, because I still want you to have the contract because I trust you. And okay, I like that one as well. So go back when we're working with supply. So actually we're doing 2 things here. Not only are you getting your business done in the right way, you're actually changing the practices or influencing the ethical practices of this supplier. So go back to them and explain that by working with their people better could actually, bring more business from you. So you actually moving out of your own business and affecting the supply chain in terms of ethics. I like that one as well. Absolutely. Reputation damage and long run risk, they can destroy your business. So all of that. Okay. And then obviously talking. So I'm loving this. This is really cool. Okay. This is great. Okay, so these are really good ideas. So we could really check out how will the delay affect your customers and negotiate with your current supplier, simultaneously checking references from a new one. So you're doing lots of activity. This is really cool. I really love this. Okay, I'm just looking at the time as well. Oh my goodness. Okay, so wow, this is really cool. We're going to come back to some of these, but I love them. But if you've got any other questions in there, feel free to stick those in there. I'm loving the way that you're thinking. So my question is, we're kind of getting towards the end because I don't want to tarry you, but we can stick around for a little bit if you want to. But just as we come into the end, are you ready to lead with integrity when faced with tough decisions? Just from hearing the kind of conversations, I think that they're great. But do you want to understand more about how you can strengthen your ethical leadership to make a lasting impact? So if this conversation about navigating ethical dilemmas has resonated with you in any way, then I invite you to take a deeper dive into your leadership or your style of leadership, the level of influence that you currently have, and how you can explore how you can have a greater impact as an ethical leader. So I offer, a complimentary leadership impact and influence audit where we can evaluate your approach to decision making and help to strengthen your ethical leadership skills. So what I ask you to do is just click on, use a QR code or click on the link that's going to come up in the chat in a minute, and then you can book your free complimentary 40-minute leadership audit with me. So in this session, it's a personalized session, and we'll just work through and to analyze your kind of decision-making process, identify areas for improvement, and develop a strategy for strengthening your ethical leadership. So it really is just an exploration and a talk about what options you could have. So don't wait until the next dilemma arises. Let's prepare now to make the best decisions possible. So the link should be coming up, or you can use the QR code. And I will say that, spaces are limited. So use the code and book your session now or soon, okay? And I do look forward to kind of working with you to enhance your leadership. So wherever you are in your leadership journey, it's about working with you to enhance that journey and helping you to continue to lead with integrity, but definitely in ways that inspires trust. What else have we got? So in reality, sometimes delays resolve themselves and the time commitment can often be met again. Okay, so be cautious and don't be overreact. So that's a really good point, not to be overly reactive, because like you said, oftentimes things can work themselves out, but it's about keeping your finger on the buzzer. Okay, so today we've kind of, just as a quick recap, we've explored how you can lead with conviction and use your integrity in tackling those tough decisions to overcome dilemmas. We've looked at making those decisions that are both aligned with your values and they benefit your organisation. And ethical leadership, as we know, is about choosing the right path, even when the easiest path is not, the right path is not the easiest one. But it's about also being transparent, accountable, and willing to take actions. So any thoughts? Thank you for your thought. Great, thank you. Just before you go, like I said, feel free to add any questions or reflections, but I just want to share one last thing with you before you check out. So again, I want to thank you for joining me today. And just remember that ethical leadership is about not making the easiest choice, but making the right choice. So lead with conviction, act with integrity, and inspire those and trust the people who follow you. So you may have guessed, like I said, feel free to put any other stuff in the chat. I do want to continue kind of this whole ethical leadership journey with you. I'm happy to stick around at the end when we stop the recording, and then we can have a bit of an open chat, or we can just kind of leave that there. But just before we close, finding ways to broaden our connection and helping us to continue this journey is something that I've been thinking about for a while. So I'm actually working on an idea to create a faith-inspired membership group that's going to be full of resources. It's going to have opportunities to talk more openly, to really look at the dilemmas for our businesses, and to get support from each other and to connect with like-minded people. So if that's something that you might be interested in, just stick a yes in the chat. If you might be interested in that, just put a yes in the chat, or you can direct message me. I get you've got to go, Nick, that's fantastic. Okay, cool. But if you think that would be useful, just put a yes in the chat, give me the thumbs up, and that way I can just keep you in mind as we continue to develop the concept, okay? So I've got a couple of ones in there. So yeah, I'll just let you know as we move towards launch. Otherwise, I look forward to speaking to those of you who booked on a complimentary session with me. And until next time, stay blessed, okay? Stay blessed. So I'm going to stop the recording, and then I can stick around if people want me to stick around. So let's stop the recording.